that happens, of course, is Ukraine comes to us and Europe and says, give us some more money. So everybody in America loses because of what India is doing. The consumers and businesses and everything lose, and workers lose because India's high tariffs cost us jobs and factories and income and higher wages. And then the taxpayers lose because we got to fund Modi's war, okay? The road to peace runs at least partly right through New Delhi. I mean Modi's war.
Let me ask
because the road to peace runs in part through New Delhi. I mean, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But there are some who say that we're losing leverage with China by eliminating the next.
This is my video update on this Thursday afternoon, August the 28th, coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Russian drone and missile strikes into Ukraine. A huge number of drones were launched into Ukraine yesterday, over 600 drones, and missile strikes after that, targeting many cities and regions throughout Ukraine, including Kiev and including the city center of Kiev. Russian drones and missiles, they also hit airfields in Kiev, but the strike that is getting a lot of attention is one that happened in the city center of Kiev. According to the Russian side of things, they launched a missile into a Ukrainian military drone manufacturing facility, a factory known as UKR Spect Systems. And this factory is located in the center of Kiev. And next to this drone manufacturing facility is the EU diplomatic mission, or in close proximity, as Ursula says, or as Ursula said in a statement that she made earlier today. The EU diplomatic mission is in close proximity of the Russian military target in the city center of Kiev, and there was some damage to the EU diplomatic mission. It wasn't targeted, but because it was in close proximity to this factory, it did sustain some damage. And this angered Ursula. She said that she was outraged at the strikes from the Russian military. She posted her speech on X, which says, "I'm outraged by the missile and drone attack on Kiev, killing men, women, and children, and damaging our diplomatic mission. My thoughts go to our brave staff. Russia's strikes on Kiev will only strengthen Europe's unity and Ukraine's defiance." And she has an arrow pointing to her 2-minute statement, where she says in her 2-minute statement that this diplomatic mission was located close to the Russian missile strike. She says that the EU is now working on a 19th sanctions package. And she also said that the EU is looking at the Russian frozen assets. They're trying to see what they can do with the Russian frozen assets. Seize, not freeze. So she said she was outraged at this strike, and boy, did Ursula get a lot of pushback from the comments to this post on X. Mostly the pushback was centered around two narratives, two things that are going on in the news. A lot of the comments underneath her post asked her why she is not outraged about what is happening in Gaza. Where is your outrage, Ursula, for everything that is happening in Gaza? She's not outraged about that. And a lot of people on X asked Ursula if she was equally outraged over the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline, which, according to German media, was without a doubt conducted by 7 Ukrainians. So that was the reply that Ursula got from her video and her post. So she said that that the EU is working on a 19th sanctions package, and according to Bloomberg, the 19th sanctions package will be secondary sanctions on countries that trade with Russia. Basically what Trump was talking about a couple of weeks ago. According to Bloomberg, the EU, they have no more sanctions to make against Russia. There's no more sanctions that they can put on Russia. They're sanctioned out. They've been sanctioned out at the 18th sanctions package. That's it. There are no more direct sanctions that they could place on Russia. And now they are exploring secondary sanctions. In other words, the European Union, it should be my clown world. The European Union is about to sanction China and India and Turkey. Who knows? Maybe even the United States, right? Probably a lot of their member states as well. Any country that trades with Russia, that purchases Russian energy, Russian gas, Russian oil, they could be facing EU sanctions. That's the 19th sanctions package, according to Bloomberg. EU considers secondary sanctions to hit Russia's war efforts. Oh man. The EU got into an economic war with Russia, and they got completely pummeled, man. I mean, completely pummeled. Germany's deindustrialized. France is possibly also going to go to the IMF to seek a bailout. I'll talk about that a bit later. What makes them think that they'll be able to now take on, let's say, India and China? Really, EU? You really want to take on India and China? Oh, man. Talk about delusions of grandeur, man. These people. What did I say in my video from last week? The sanctions are now just, it's a ritual. It's a ritual. It's a process that keeps Kaya Kallas and a staff of 50 or 100 people or 500 people, however many people are employed in the EU headquarters to deal with sanctions. It's just about keeping them busy. That's it. Justify their 6-figure salaries. No more sanctions against Russia? How about India and China? Yeah. That'll keep us busy for another couple of years. Crazy, man. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Ursula and Kaya Kallas running the EU into the ground, one sanctions package at a time. So JD Vance, he gave an interview to, I believe, USA Today, and he was asked about Project Ukraine, and Vance said that Ukraine was a money pit, continues to be a money pit. He said that under Biden, Zelensky would show up in DC, meet with Biden, leave with a couple $100 billion, and no one really knew where this money was going, what it was being used for. And JD Vance actually used the word money pit. That is the word that the Vice President of the United States used when describing the situation with Project Ukraine, specifically under the Biden administration. He is now saying that the Trump administration, they claim they're not funding Ukraine anymore. They're not sending any more money to the Green Goblin, at least not directly. But he also says that the Trump administration is more focused in their diplomacy, and they actually have goals and targets for what they want to see accomplished with regards to Project Ukraine and the conflict with Russia. He basically says that Biden, he was just giving money and whatever happens, happens. 10% for the big guy. What Vance said is that when Biden was in office, Zelensky would come to Washington and leave with billions of dollars without any real goal, any real diplomacy, any real sense of what we were going to buy with that $100 billion. Ukraine just felt like this weird money pit where we throw money after the problem without any real plan to solve the problem. Money pit, washing machine, laundromat. You say potato, I say potato, whatever. We know what you're getting at, Mr. Vice President Vance. We know what you want to say about Project Ukraine. We get it. So I mentioned Nord Stream because German media, they are closing the books on the Nord Stream investigation. They're pretty much saying that the German investigators, they've got the whole Nord Stream riddle wrapped up. They know who done it. They've arrested the one guy, Italian authorities arrested the one guy who goes by the name of Sergei K. There are 6 other people that they have to arrest. And one of those people, 7 people in total, one of the guys, according to Die Zeit, they're the ones that are reporting the conclusive results of the Nord Stream investigation. According to them, one of the guys has died on the front lines, so 7 is now down to 6. They've arrested the one guy, Sergei K, and they're going after the other 5. And my understanding from reading this article via translation is that the one guy is in Ukraine, and his wife or one of his family members is saying they have no idea what's going on or something like that. Anyway, they're in Ukraine pretty much. And to make a long story short, because this is a very long article, which unravels the riddle of the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. To make a long story short, 7 guys on a sailboat. 6 of them went out on the sailboat. 1 guy joined them afterwards. The one guy that joined them afterwards allegedly was also going to take part in the blowing up of Turkstream. And the claim is that he brought a whole bunch of explosives with him from the Turkstream job, which was all botched and didn't happen, was not successful anyway. 7 people in total on a sailboat. One of them is gone, died on the front lines. The divers, the saboteurs, are Ukrainian. They are Ukrainians who were trained by the German military. Get that? Trained by the German military. Oh man. Oh boy. And they were caught by the German authorities because they were speeding. They were caught in a vehicle that was speeding, and the cameras got them. And they were using fake names, but real Ukrainian passports. Fake names, real Ukrainian passports. That's the story, everybody, of Nord Stream. That's pretty much the whole story in a nutshell. I may be getting some details a bit wrong here and there, but that's pretty much the summary of the whole thing. That's how they're going to wrap this up. Basically, they are saying that Ukrainians in a sailboat blew up the pipeline, and they were trained by German military. So German military, German military officials helped Ukraine blow up German energy infrastructure. There it is. There it is. Pin the blame on Germany, pin the blame on Ukraine. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's forget about Nord Stream now. Thank you, USA, Radoslav Sikorsky, or Liz Truss. Liz Truss and her messages, alleged messages about Nord Stream. So that was what was posted yesterday. If you believe any of this, well, then I've got a huge, massive bridge to sell you. I don't know, Germany blowing up or helping to blow up a German pipeline, or aiding in the blowing up of a German pipeline. Is that Article 5? Is that an Article 5 scenario? Or Ukraine? Ukraine's not in NATO, so you can't have Article 5 for a NATO country, can you? So Ukraine is not in NATO, and we're talking about 7 Ukrainians trained by the German military. Is that an Article 5? I don't know. It's also confusing. It's also confusing. Let's see. 7 people, everybody. 7 people in total. 7 people. And they already have Sergei K. So we're talking about 6 people. I know who we're talking about, actually. Crap. I know the people that blew up the pipeline. I know their names. Gilligan, Skipper, Professor, Marianne, Ginger, the millionaire. That's 6 people. And Sergei K. But one of the people has died on the front line. So maybe, you know what I think? Maybe the millionaire and his wife were not involved in any of this. That's it. I think that's it. I think the millionaire and his wife were not involved in any of this Nord Stream stuff. So we're just basically talking about Sergei K., the guy that died on the front lines, and Gilligan, the skipper, Professor, Ginger, Marianne. That's it. That's it. Figured it out. So sticking with Germany, let's talk about BlackRock Merz. And not only BlackRock Merz, Macron, and Tusk, the big 3 of the EU, the big heavy hitters of the European Union. Donald Tusk, BlackRock Merz, Emmanuel, the flip-flapper, Macron. They traveled to Moldova so that they can give their support to Maya Sandu, as parliament elections are going to take place in about a week or 2. And they want to send a strong message to Russia. And the message is, we can meddle in Moldova's elections. You cannot. That's right. Don't even think about meddling in Moldova's elections. That's our job. That's for us, not for you, Putin. So yeah, they were in Moldova, and boy, were they talking all kinds of smack, especially Merz. Merz was a yapping. He was talking all kinds of smack, all kinds of tough talk. He said that Ukraine must not capitulate. We will not allow Ukraine to capitulate to Russia. If this war ends in Russia's favor, then he said that Russia will continue to push for more war and more territory, and we cannot allow that to happen. So Merz's message was that Russia is the enemy and remains the enemy for the foreseeable future. And in Germany and the EU, they will support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Check out the photo of the big 3 with Maya Sandu. Reservoir dogs, everybody. Tough, decisive leaders. Donald Tusk, flip-flapper Macron, Maya Sandu, and BlackRock Merz, with his new haircut, looking really, really sharp. BlackRock Merz. So Merz posted on X, Russia is the greatest threat to peace in Europe. It is conducting hybrid attacks against us through sabotage, like Nord Stream, cyber attacks, disinformation. That is why we are acting decisively. We are hardening the infrastructure, intensifying our coordination, and making society more resilient. Politico is reporting that EU leaders opened their arms to Moldova, denouncing Putin's lies. The message of support comes ahead of a crucial election for pro-EU President Maya Sandu. The EU is sending their culture chief to Moldova for the Creative Europe Pact. The European Commission is joining solidarity efforts to stop Moldova from falling into Russia's clutches. Yeah, so the culture chief is going to be in Moldova, and he's going to talk to Moldova about the funds for Creative Europe culture or something like that. It's a fund. It's a fund that the EU has put together that centers around culture and Creative Europe Pact stuff. I don't know. It's a fund. There's money in that fund. Vote Sandu, everybody, right? We got to support Sandu because there's a big, fat, juicy Europe Creative Fund waiting for you. Sandu and Sandu supporters and Sandu oligarchs. So BlackRock Merz, it is being reported, he is building up Germany's war machine. He is building up Germany's military so that they can take on Russia. And we're not talking about defensive stuff. We're talking about offensive stuff as well. There are reports from German media that Merz, he's building up Germany's infrastructure, roads, railroad infrastructure, highway infrastructure, so that Germany can be the central node in what will be a transportation network, a transportation infrastructure that will allow NATO, according to the media, to send up to 800,000 troops to the border of Russia for some sort of an assault or an attack or whatever they're cooking up against Russia in the future. And whenever you hear about a ton of money being spent, well, being borrowed now, in Germany's case, that money is now being borrowed and now being spent on infrastructure, you can bet that you're looking at a whole lot of corruption whenever you're talking about infrastructure and construction and stuff like that, especially on a government level. Corruption, baby. A whole lot of corruption going on. I remember when I was in Greece during 2004, the Olympics, the Athens Olympics, and there was a big scandal involving Germany and Siemens. That really opened up my eyes to the corruption of the very high up German elite. I did not expect that from Germany. I had the impression that Germany, corrupt. No way, man. They don't have that rep, but you better believe it, especially when you're talking about the very, very high up, rich and powerful. Yeah, I remember that Siemens scandal in Athens in 2004, 2005. Anyway, that is what BlackRock Merz is up to. Rheinmetall, according to Bloomberg, has also opened up Europe's largest artillery ammunition factory. And according to Bloomberg, this factory in the next couple of years will be able to crank out, I think Bloomberg said 350,000 artillery shells a year. I think that was the number that they put out there. So I mentioned that France may be seeking an IMF bailout as Germany is quickly getting into massive debt so that they can prepare to go to war with Russia. Merz is itching for a war with Russia. France looks like they might be heading to the IMF for a bailout, following in Stammer and the UK's footsteps. So I mentioned in a video a couple of days ago that, or maybe in a video yesterday, 2 days ago, I mentioned that Bayrou, the Prime Minister of France, he is putting the budget to a vote, and this is going to be a no confidence vote. So if he doesn't get the approval of the Parliament, then this will also mean that the current Bayrou government will collapse, and it does look like he is not going to get the support of the parliament. It looks like the socialists are not going to vote positively for Bayrou's budget, nor will Le Pen and the National Rally. And we may be heading into snap elections. The Bayrou government will collapse. That's the way it looks in the next week, I believe. September 7th or 8th is the no confidence vote. So the one possibility is that we may be heading into snap elections. But the problem is that if we get snap elections, the results will either be the same with regards to the parliament, or it may be even in a situation, the Macron administration may even find itself in a situation where National Rally picks up even more seats. What's up, my friend? And becomes the dominant party in the parliament. That could also be a possible outcome if you have snap elections. So that's the one possibility. The other possibility is that Macron could look for another prime minister and try to get another prime minister in place, but that doesn't look likely. And even if he does manage to get another prime minister in place, in 3 months, we're just going to be back to the same situation when it comes to a no confidence vote and voting on a budget and stuff like that. So that option does not look so likely, but it's an option. And the other option, Alexander was telling me about this today. He said the most likely option is that Macron will rule by decree. Yeah, there is a provision in French law which says that the president can rule by decree for a certain amount of time and under certain conditions. And because Macron has about a year left in his term as president, he may actually try to rule France by some sort of a decree instead of going the route of snap elections. Now, if this happens, if the rule by decree thing happens, or if he tries to find another prime minister and things go south, then that could spell big time trouble for France and for borrowing costs. It could cause a lot of panic, a lot of uncertainty. And then France would have to head to the IMF for some sort of bailout. And we're not only talking about the IMF. France is too big for the IMF. We're talking about the EU probably jumping in to try and bail out France. We're talking about Germany jumping in to try and bail out France. We could be looking at a serious freaking meltdown happening. We'll have to wait and see what happens after the votes, and then and see what Macron and his government decide to do. The right thing to do is snap elections for the good of France. In order to not create too much panic, the right thing to do is just to have the snap elections. And if it's National Rally, so be it, National Rally. But knowing Macron's ego and the fact that the globalists will do anything to prevent Le Pen from her party from taking power, I just don't see the snap elections as happening. So anyway, that's the situation in France. According to the New York Times, fears of a French government collapse send its borrowing costs soaring. France, a cornerstone economy in Europe, is rapidly becoming one of the weakest links as a political and debt crisis loom. So Zelensky's entertainment lawyer, Yermak, he is on his way to the United States. He will be meeting with Steve Witkoff, and they will be talking security guarantees. Why are they talking about security guarantees when Russia has told them forget about security guarantees. It's not going to happen, at least not in the way that you guys want it to happen. Who knows? Who knows why they're wasting their time? Why is the Trump administration and Witkoff wasting his time talking to Yermak about security guarantees that Russia has said no to a million times? Good question. Very good question. But anyway, Yermak is going to travel to DC to discuss these things with Witkoff. Meloni, she is taking credit for the Article 5 light idea. Let's call it Article 5 light, which is basically the idea that Ukraine will be given Article 5 protection, but it just will not be called NATO Article 5. It will be Article 5, but it will not be an Article 5 protection under NATO. It'll be an Article 5 protection under countries that are NATO members. So we'll call it Article 5 Light. That is the security guarantee that Giorgia Meloni came up with, and she's very proud of the fact that she came up with this Article 5 Light idea. She was speaking at a conference called the Rimini Conference, and she is claiming credit for shaping talks on Ukraine security guarantees. Yeah, so the Article 5 light security guarantees. The stupid idea is your idea, Meloni. Way to take credit for an idea for a plan that will never, ever, ever happen. Way to take credit for that, Giorgia Meloni. The more I listen to Giorgia Meloni, the more I come to the conclusion that she's not very bright, not bright at all. She also said that the EU is doomed to irrelevance in the face of US-China competition. She said the bloc needs to do less, but do it better to remain competitive, the Italian Prime Minister says. Do less, not more. And then we can take on China and the United States. No, you can't. No, you cannot. You have your pipelines blown up by Ukrainians in a sailboat trained by German military officials. How are you going to take on the United States and China? It took you 3 years to figure this thing out as well. I could have figured it out in a day or two, man. I could have come up with this story. Let me rephrase that. I could have come up with this story in a day or two. Come on, guys. Script writers, man. You guys are not trying hard enough. They wanted to give it 3 years, right? Get some distance, create some distance between the actual blowing up of the pipeline and the investigation that is concluding. Create some distance, people forget about it, they stop caring about it, the damage has already been done, and the damage was extensive and catastrophic for Germany and for the European Union. We're talking catastrophic damage to the EU and to European economies. But you create enough distance, people start to forget about it, they're not so invested in the story anymore, and then you come out with the investigation results, where you put together the script of the investigation results. Anyway, it looks like there's going to be a color revolution in Greenland. How about that, huh? Denmark summons U.S. envoy over alleged Greenland influence campaign. American agents have been trying to recruit people for a secession movement, according to Danish media. So they're saying that people in the Trump White House, allegedly, people in the Trump White House were in Greenland, and they were asking people in Greenland how loyal they are to Denmark and their views of Greenland remaining part of Denmark, or perhaps it would like to maybe, I don't know, move over to the United States of America. And so they were just poking around, trying to figure out what the vibe is in Greenland in order to stir up some color revolution trouble, right? Color revolution, a U.S. color revolution in Greenland. Interesting. Trump posted on Truth that he is going to go after George Soros and son, because they're stirring up trouble in the United States, according to President Trump. George Soros and his wonderful radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more, all throughout the United States of America. We're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore, never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and be free. Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. That includes his crazy West Coast friends. Be careful, we're watching you. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Who are his crazy West Coast friends that he's talking about? Anyone know? I don't know. It's a serious question. Who are his crazy West Coast friends? Is he talking about Hollywood? Is that who he's talking about? I don't know. His wonderful radical left son. I like that. Anyway, good on Trump. Yeah, it's time to take on the big oligarch, George Soros and son. Soros and son. So that's going to be interesting. That'll be an interesting battle. So Milei was at an event in Buenos Aires, and his car was driving through this event, and things got violent. Things got really violent. People were throwing rocks and stones at Milei's car. A lot of people upset with Mr. Milei. Let's do some clown worlds, and we can wrap this video up. Samantha Power, the former head of USAID, one of Obama's neo-lib dream team members, Samantha Power. She was punked by Vovan and Lexus. They got her. They posed as some Western officials. They didn't pose as Poroshenko or as the president of the Council of Africa or something like that, which they usually go with. This time around, they went with Western officials or something like that. Anyway, they got Samantha Power to admit that USAID and the US government spent tens of millions of dollars in Moldova. Samantha Power has admitted that Washington financially supported the pro-Western candidate that won the last presidential election. We're talking about Maya Sandu. And Samantha Power, her concern was that now that USAID is not able to pour tens of millions of dollars into Moldova, she's afraid that that Moldova may actually have a free and fair election. She's afraid that Moldova will now fall into the clutches of Russia. But what she means is that Moldova may actually have a free and fair election now that the United States is not able to meddle in their elections by pouring in tens of millions of dollars. And she also said that it's now up to the Europeans, it's up to Ursula and the EU to prevent Moldova from having free and fair elections and perhaps falling into the clutches of Russia. Well, that is what Samantha Power admitted. It is the collective West that has been meddling and continues to meddle in Moldova. Not Russia. Not Russia. I don't see Russia pouring in tens of millions of dollars. Maybe they are. Maybe they are, and we just don't know about it. But Samantha Power just told Vovan and Lexus, yeah, USAID, we put millions of dollars into Moldova to support Maya Sandu, a very unimpressive politician, by the way, Maya Sandu. How did she end up becoming the leader of Moldova? Jeez. Anyway, did you guys see the video of the foreign minister of Luxembourg hugging the foreign minister of Ukraine? The foreign minister of Luxembourg's name, Javier Bettel. He saw the Ukrainian foreign minister, and this was more than a hug. This is real, by the way. It's not AI. I thought this was AI because this video came out a couple of days ago, and I wasn't sure if I was going to report on this because it looked like AI. But from what I understand, it's not AI. This video was actually published by Ukrainian authorities, by Ukrainian government officials. They published this video, which shows the foreign minister of Luxembourg lunging, attacking the foreign minister of Ukraine, lunging into his arms. A lot of people are wondering why. Why is he jumping him like that? Why would the foreign minister of Luxembourg jump on the foreign minister of Ukraine? I'll tell you why, and I'll wrap up the video on this point. Because for Luxembourg, you have to imagine that the washing machine that is Ukraine has been huge business, right? A huge plus for their economy. So if you saw the foreign minister of Ukraine, you would also just be hugging him like crazy. Thank you. Thank you. Man, Project Ukraine has been awesome for Luxembourg. Awesome. I can't even begin to tell you all the bank accounts that we've opened, the amount of money that we've opened under these bank accounts. Anyway, that's the video, theduran.locals.com. We're on X, we're on Rumble and Telegram, and go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. There's a link in the description box down below. Take care.